Shrivatsa, we spoke all the time at this session about friendship across religion, and I would like to ask you if you can share some stories in your life, in your personal life, experience of friendship with people of other religions. What example you have, and what it was, how it was important if for your own journey to meet with someone of another religion.
Actually, friendship is the given fact of life. There is no life if there is no friendship. But interestingly enough, friendship presupposes someone else. Someone else from my own tradition, but then also to step out of my own tradition, someone else from another tradition, and that may be from a religious point of view as well. So for me, interreligious friendship or interreligious life is my predicament. Born and coming from Vrindavan, which is an interfaith creation. It is a unique example of interreligious friendship where my ancestors in the 16th century established an honest and an open interreligious friendship with the Muslim ruler of that time, the Mughal Akbar. And these two friends, on one side Hindu priests and theologians and philosophers and saints, on another side a Muslim king, a politician, a statesman, a ruler. When these two entered into a friendship, something unique came out in the interreligious history of humanity. The holiest of holy Hindu town, Vrindavan, physically, literally, is the gift of a Muslim king to the Hindus. And being born there and having lived there, interfaith is the essential ingredient of my life experience. But now when I reflect on that situation, I also see that interfaith predicament opens two doors for us. One is a door to go inside in a kind of negative way, that you close the door for any other. You reject the other. You ignore the other and just be content with what you have got. You don't let the light from outside come in. That probably was a horrible alternative to our ancestors. They did not close their doors. Rather, they chose the other path. They opened the door. They opened the door which allowed them to move out of their own home, own house, own mansion, and visit the mansion of the neighbor. And what then happened was amazing. The whole life, me, born as a Hindu, growing up through series of sacraments, when I look at the sacraments, I am amazed that how beautifully it has been enriched culturally, artistically by my Muslim neighbors and Muslim friends. And say, for example, the central sacrament in a Hindu's life is the marriage. Very crucial. The marriage ceremonies, there are so many ingredients like mehndi, sehra, ghodi banna, banna banni, all these elaborate rituals, now I understand, do not have strict Hindu roots. rather they are very generous gifts from the Islamic culture. Excuse me. That culture, if he had not generously provided us those songs and those rituals, which are not essentially Vedic or Hindu, the whole fun, the whole enjoyment would have been very, very poor, and very colorless, very musically deprived.
So you mean that a friendship can influence another religion, but it's not to reduce or to dissolve the other religions, but to bring something that could be beautiful, more beautiful for the other.
Yeah.
And you experiment that in your life personally?
Yeah, it is not even a question of influence, but it's a question of evolution and enrichment. Embellishment, decoration. I'm decorating my own friend in that sense. So in that, life cycle thing, I see this gift of the friends. But also in my strict ritualistic mode, in the religious where, the ritual world for each tradition is very exclusive world. But even within that, I see this generosity or the openness and courage on our ancestors' part, both ways. That's not only that the Muslims presented the gifts, but we had the courage to accept the gifts and use those gifts. The gifts are all available, but what happens, we lack the courage to use those gifts in our life, in our own context. So the water vessels in the Hindu temple, which I see goes back even to Babylonia and Assyria and Sumeria. They are probably not of the Hindu roots. Then my deity, which sits on silver and golden thrones, who makes them? They are made by Muslim artists and artisans, silversmiths. The crown which is worn by Lord Krishna in my temple, who gives the design for that and who makes them? Probably it is made usually by a Muslim artist, a craftsman. The design comes from the crowns worn by the Mughal emperors and the British emperors, So the Christian and Muslim input comes through the design also, and it is accepted. The dress, the coat and the pajama, a pant-like pajama, is worn by the deity. It is not the Hindu dress.
Do you have personally some gifts that you become from a friend and you use it for your own spiritual life?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I'm enumerating all these things,
yes.
Which is coming from non-Hindu friends.
Yes, but
and
in your life personally?
Yeah, personally, we all the time.
All the time.
From my Christian friends and other friends, And I cherish, the gifts in the form of books and many other things, when in my own marriage time, the maximum number of my friends visiting the bride's house were mostly Jesuit priests. There were not many Hindu friends of mine, but the Christian Jesuit priests were a very sizable presence in the time of my own marriage. And the gifts which I received at that time from them are still a lifelong point of cherishment for me. So in that way, what I see is that I, as a Hindu living in Vrindavan in the 21st century, will feel myself very incomplete and very impoverished if I had not been lucky enough to be in the tradition of the Hindu ancestors who made it possible for me, who provided me an interfaith ground to start with. So my job was made easier, since my life and my existence was on an interfaith ground, so I had a start. I was the privileged one, which many of the humanity are not. And I really enjoy and cherish that.
And you think that how do you friendship, such friendship for you could be very useful for our time now? Because you have, it's very interesting story. You have roots of, because ancestors were have a good friendship and build something together. But most of the time in the history we have no friendship, and now we have to cross and to go to the people to repair the past. And you, it's not the same. You have not to repair the past, but now you think that friendship now could be a good way to repair, to heal, to help people to overcome the anger, the difficulties, the closeness, and so on. And how do you do that for your community?
By giving you this glorious chapter from my own history of interfaith interaction and interchange and exchange, I'm not denying that there are moments of sadness in the Hindu-Muslim or Hindu-Christian relationships. I'm not denying that. But what I am seeing, that my focus is that history is a very important teacher for me. It's a very important resource for me to look at my own being in my own time. Because without that past history, I'm not here. The Sunday has produced the Monday. But in Monday, what do? The Sunday has given me pain. So I visit the pain with one understanding, that how can I get rid of that pain? What was the ways by which I got rid of that pain? So the negative experience has always to be repaired, healed, treated with something which is positive. So the onus is now on me, and especially for all my friends who are in the leadership mode of any religious tradition, that to look at the history honestly, look at the difficult moments in history, see how much pain it gave. So learn not to repeat that, number one. That is the onus on the leadership. It's not the responsibility of the masses, because they do not have the luxury to understand and analyze all these concepts and all these problems. So the leadership has to analyze that it is not repeated, number one. Number two, to focus more on history as a resource for our positive experience. If we can do that, then I think the healing process will be happening. Otherwise it will be just a rhetoric.
And this process, in your experience, begin with only two people, at least. Friendship, two people can be very creative to build a good world, a better world.
Yeah, and it does, because when the Goswamis and the Mughal Akbar entered into politics, in friendship, the result was not just creation of the town of Vrindavan, but with that peace, what comes? A social stability, which is very crucial thing for a human existence, context. And in that social stability comes the economic prosperity of the people. With the economic prosperity then comes the whole explosion of the aesthetic activity, the fine arts, the music, the drama, the architecture, you name it. So friendship then becomes such a starting point or a triggering point for creating an environment for human good, in all its dimensions, including the political.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful. That is exactly the friendship is not only fun.